So you say. So, yeah. Howdy, y'all. Howdy, partners. I don't know if any of that even comes through, because there's an ad playing. Hi, partner.
Howdy.
I think that's apropos.
Or as Jackie Chan said so eloquently in Shanghai Noon, howdy, partner. That's not a sci-fi movie, though. It's a martial arts.
It's a mashup with something else.
It's a Western martial arts mashup. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
So what did you get for Thanksgiving?
I got time with you.
Oh.
And I got more frustrated with Skyrim.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's understandable.
But I got the Jarl of Markarth out of his throne.
You know what? I am glad I actually don't play Skyrim, but I get to live vicariously through you and your stories, which I find are probably more entertaining than playing the game itself.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
yeah,
I do too.
It's my catharsis.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday live stream. Hope you guys are well, safe, healthy. We decided today, well, we really didn't decide today. If you're wondering where Tim and Aaron are, it's because I have been not feeling great the last 48 hours. And even though we work from home and I have seasonal allergies and have my whole life, in these strange times, I just didn't feel like it was worth the risk and going to wait it out and see. I'm pretty sure I'm fine, but it's about protecting my friends. You already live with me, so...
Lucky me.
Lucky you. We're here already. But anyway, so we were just taking some precautions, but Tim and Aaron are not gone. Hopefully they'll be back on the next stream and everything will be fine. Okay, so can you hear me? If you guys are having audio problems, let me know.
Papa, can you hear me? Okay, I don't think I've missed... Okay, just wanted to make sure I hadn't missed any super chats. I have
already?
a couple. Monkey Boy, thank you very much. He says, just to kick you off with a little appreciation. That's very kind.
Oh, thank you.
Salvador says, next time I'm getting yelled at work, I'm just going to tell them I'm the Jarl's Thane. Sounds like a solid plan, man.
Yeah. Speaking of Sal, Sal sent us these awesome RC cups, which I am now finally using.
Yeah, they've been in the cabinet, the glass cabinet upstairs. Oh, man, you know how much I hate the sound of pouring.
But you know what? It's not going to last long. It's almost over.
I hate it.
It's almost over. There you go.
At least there's no ice in there.
There's no ice.
That makes it worse.
There's no ice.
All right. Matt Movies says, thoughts on the movie Serenity. I think it was a great finale for Firefly since we couldn't get another season. We are definitely going to get into Serenity.
We are definitely getting into Serenity.
We initially were going to just do a Firefly-themed live stream today, but we thought we'd broaden it out. But we can certainly spend some time discussing Firefly and Serenity because Michael and I, of course, met at a Firefly meetup, and we both are...
That's true.
Or at least were fans of the series.
I don't hate the series. I don't. I love the series. I love the series a lot. I'm saying sometimes, all right, it's a different kind of baggage, but it's baggage nonetheless, all right? When the Star Wars prequels happened, and then the Disney stuff happened, and then all the infighting happened for 1999 to now, right? That's a lot of years of disappointment and mediocrity and fighting. That becomes baggage on top of the Star Wars stuff you like. And so,
I agree. I actually kind of don't like Star Wars anymore because of all that.
Even though you recognize that the Star Wars trilogy, specifically the first two films, are really good.
I do. Here's Please continue.
So, I recognize that Firefly is a great show.
Mm-hmm.
I owned it long before you and I met.
I'm shocked you don't have your props down here.
I don't. I have a big book that I've never had on the table before. My point is, it's been colored by baggage.
Okay.
Some baggage has happened.
Well, we all have baggage.
So as much as I love it and recognize it to be great, it's hard to revisit. Is that so difficult to understand, Miss I love Star Wars but don't really like it anymore?
Yes, so now I'm going to tell you why I think there is a distinction between those two.
Here we go.
Here we go. Buckle up. Star Wars won't stop. It just won't shut up. It's like that kid on the playground who just won't stop running his mouth. It's like that. Whereas Firefly was really annoying for quite a while there, but has finally faded into the background, and I really don't hear anyone talking about it anymore. Like with the Bring Back Firefly, what's his name? Nathan Fillion could still do it even though he's like pushing 50 or 60 years old at this point. Like at a certain point, he's gotten to a point where, you know, although people still say Harrison Ford should be Indiana Jones, so I don't know. But point is, I don't hear a lot of people talking about Firefly, so my dislike for it and my getting sick of it has kind of diminished. Whereas Star Wars, with The Mandalorian, which we will be talking about today on some level, it just won't stop. And so I feel like if Star Wars ever finally just, you know, dies, or at least for a little while, it might make me like it more again. Because I don't know. Anything that's like that, I just get burned out on hearing people talk about it incessantly.
That's where I got burned out on it, was hearing people talk about it incessantly.
I get it.
Yeah.
JD says, I would like to give a dedication to my friend Pete, who passed away on Monday. Sorry to hear that, man. That's a bummer.
Yeah, that's awful, and I'm sorry that happened. But hopefully I don't know the situation, but hopefully he lived a good life, and you were able to be with him, you know, shortly before his passing. So
yeah. Yeah, Kuda70 says, I agree, Melinda. I was a Star Wars fan before the dark times. So, see, I mean, I don't know. Some of it just has to do with your personality, and some of it has to do with you're just reading over my shoulder, man. Don't peek. Matt says, if it weren't for Firefly, there would be no RetroBlasting.
That's true. That's actually literally true. Yeah,
it's true. It's a true story.
All right, on to topic. So we're talking about space westerns, and as we were developing this live stream topic, it kind of morphed a little bit, because at first we were just going to rattle off, you know, our thoughts and feelings on various defined space westerns, until Melinda and I, going through various lists on the internet, started to vehemently disagree with some people's picks for what constitutes a space western. So I think this live stream is going to be more about us debating what we feel a space western is versus what the internet at large seems to think a space western is. Does that make a fair statement?
Yes.
Okay.
And also what a western is. Because at the core of this is, it's really easy to say what's a space movie, because any movie that's in space can be a space movie, because it is about a location, not a theme or a topic. It could be any kind of movie. You've got things like Spaceballs, and then you've got things like Star Trek, like completely different, all set in space. Nobody's going to disagree with you.
Right.
I feel like Western is a little more gray, because, you know, how many of the themes and tropes that are known to be common in Western films have to exist before something is considered a Western, and then to a second degree of that, how many have to be there before it's a space Western?
Right, exactly.
Like, is it just an aesthetic? Does the music have to kind of be there? Does some of the window dressing components of like the look, is it more about like having like this rugged man with no name type cowboy character? Does there have to be like, you know, there's so many tropes in Westerns that I think we can sort of talk about, and then talk about how some of these contain, you know, some of those tropes.
Would you like to kick it off, or?
Not really.
Okay.
Let me read a couple of super chats. So Wicked Person says, Battlestar Galactica, wagon train to the stars?
Yeah, I thought I put Battlestar Galactica up here.
I thought you did too. Maybe you left it over there.
Oh, I guess I left it.
He did.
Let me grab that real quick. I meant to put that on the table.
Yes, Imperial Mort says Silverhawks is more a cop show. I would agree with that. There is some law enforcement overlap in the Western genre. Obviously, they're sheriffs, and, you know, the whole, like, tracking down the bad guys, whether it's a sheriff and his posse or whether it's a bounty hunter.
It is on there.
Bounty hunters are sort of an interesting topic that we can also get into, because they themselves, much like Westerns, are a setting that are sort of outside of our normal society and our normal laws.
Mm-hmm.
Bounty hunters operate even now under a very old set of laws called common laws, which are sort of different. Like, they have rights to do things that even police officers don't have, like just forcing their way into your house or doing whatever in order to catch you. And so it's sort of an interesting, like, very few countries, civilized nations on the earth anymore allow for bounty hunters to exist, because they are so of a past time, and they kind of civil rights, it's just sort of like, you know what I mean? It's interesting, but I think that the reason that they are such a trope, and The Mandalorian is a great example of it, is because they are people who get to operate outside of our normal laws, kind of like Paladin, and so that's
it's literally like Paladin.
It's a great Western trope, which is so much fun, and you can do so much cool stuff with that. So, but yes, Battlestar Galactica, I would say, kind of has some Western tropes, although when I watch it, I do not get a Western vibe myself.
Well, I would argue that it's like Oregon Trail in space, because you have a bunch of settlers, displaced settlers, trying to navigate a dangerous road to get to a new home, which is Oregon Trail. And it's funny that you say Wagon Train to the Stars, Wicked, because we were talking about this earlier. Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, has said in interviews that that's how he finally pitched the second pilot, I believe, of Star Trek to the studio, the broadcaster, because Westerns were dominant on TV then, and they were reticent to make a space show, especially one so cerebrally, dense as Star Trek. And so he was like, no, it's Wagon Train to the Stars. But I think he did that to get the show sold. I think Battlestar Galactica is far more Wagon Train to the Stars than Star Trek is.
I can see that. It's sort of like the difference between the Japanese version of Die Rugger and Voltron, the vehicle Voltron.
Right.
The American version changes the core reason why the people are in space. One is an exploration, and the other is a colonization.
Right.
And so that fundamental change kind of switches it over to being more like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, good or bad.
Yeah.
Master Son says, wait, you hate the sound of pouring a drink? Who knew? Yeah, I do. I hate the sound of liquid pouring, and most especially if there's ice in the glass and it's like fizzy. And they put it in ads on like the radio a lot, because I guess they think it makes you thirsty, but it makes me want to punch through my windshield when I'm driving in the car. I'm like, no! And I have to turn off the radio. It's like eating noises. Like, any of you out there who have like problems with like people chewing or smacking or mouth noises, it's very upsetting. But the worst of all to me is a pouring liquid sound. Hate it. All right. Peter Vinkman says, does the movie Space Truckers from 1996 qualify?
I would say Space Truckers is more Black Dog in space. Like, it's more Patrick Swayze trucker movie in space. Hence the title. That's why, like, for example, we have some of these up here because they were on internet lists, but we're going to debate them a little bit. Like Ice Pirates, for example. It's called Ice Pirates. Which,
not Ice Cowboys.
Not Ice Cowboys, which I'm not trying to be pedantic, but if you actually watch the content of the movie is a group of guys on like a space pirate ship who are there to swashbuckle a princess out of bondage. And so it's like half in a pirate thing and half in a Robin Hood thing in space. I don't see a lot of cowboy stuff in it and Western stuff in that. Whereas Firefly,
Yeah, Firefly literally has the train job. They herd cattle. They have the aesthetics. They also have a lot of the So a lot of times in real Western films, just straight up Western films, that was set during a time in the American West, thus the name, where you have like men who, whichever side they fought for, were veterans of the Civil War. And so they're veterans, and a lot of times they are Southern veterans, so they lost, their side lost. And so you have that, for better or worse, like in Firefly, obviously, the group who lost in Firefly are portrayed as, slightly different than our Southern brethren. But the point is that you've got all of these elements of, people who are, you've got dusty settings when they land on these worlds that have been terraformed and are being colonized. So you've got the colonization. You've got literally every single thing, and Joss Whedon did all of that very intentionally. But I feel like we need to start with a series that I haven't seen all of since it came out, and that's Cowboy Bebop. Because, even though I don't think we have it on the table,
no, we don't.
That show, I feel like, had to inspire Firefly.
For those that haven't heard of it, explain what Cowboy Bebop is.
Well, Cowboy Bebop is it's very similar in my mind to Firefly. It's an anime, and I don't know how to say his name. Watanabe. Okay. It's created by him, and it's got a very cool stylistic, it's like a blend, almost Blade Runner-y, with its film noir aspects, along with westerns and stuff like that. It's about a crew that are on the ship called the Bebop, and they're essentially like bounty hunters. Speaking of the bounty hunter trope, they're going around catching criminals. Earth has sort of been... a lot of people have left Earth and have moved onto other planets, and so Earth is...
Much like Blade Runner?
Much like Blade Runner. So Earth is sort of almost like the Wild West, and so they kind of hunt down these... So it's very episodic, but much like Firefly, there's a through line in the way that all the characters in the show view the events that are happening to them. And I think the overriding theme of that, much like in Firefly, is that you really can't escape your past. You kind of have to deal with, like, your past defines how you view everything, and until you can reconcile it, you can never really move on. And it's very depressing and kind of heavy, and a lot of that is also in Firefly, and certainly I would say in Serenity, to the earlier question that we had.
To the point about Star Trek being a space western, certain storylines of Star Trek are space westerns. Star Trek as an entire concept, I feel, is really just pure science fiction. But occasionally, like we saw Star Trek V, of all things, pop up on the space westerns list, which is funny to me because Gene Roddenberry and many diehard Star Trek people say Star Trek V is the closest thing plot-wise to Star Trek I. Star Trek I is not a space western at all.
No,
but
that's
people
pure
see,
sci-fi.
But people see the saloon, the desert planet, and the horses in Star Trek V, and they immediately go space western. There are western tropes in certain scenes of Star Trek V.
And window dressing. But it's it's not even... It's all just window dressing to me in that movie. I don't get a Western vibe from that either. Like a lot of these, like Galaxina is a great example.
Galaxina kept coming up on lists.
I don't get a Western vibe from that movie.
There are sets that they use in the movie that are old Western sets to depict other planets. You know, rundown shanty towns and saloons and stuff like that. But I don't know if that's them doing that because they wanted it to have Western window dressing, or if it's because they literally had no budget to make this movie. That's a big difference.
I do think it's a good point, because I think they kind of just did it out of necessity. It's not really reflected in anything that's happening with the characters.
Like, for example, Barbarella has no Western stuff in it at all. It is pure psychedelic science fiction from beginning to end. Right? You can't call it a Western in space or a science fiction Western. It is not that at all. This, I feel like, wanted to be a Barbarella, but didn't have the budget.
Correct. Which is...
Right.
Scott says, elements that make Westerns for me are protagonists on the fringe of society, a horse of some kind, corrupt or ineffectual government resulting in folks needing help, which I agree, those are all really big ones. That's why Firefly hits all of those. Interestingly, like right next to that, Brave Star has the horse thing. In Firefly, of course, the Serenity
is the horse. Right.
Which is kind of a nice shift. I think that works in a lot of space westerns. This show, he is the law enforcement, so he's more like the sheriff. One of those types of westerns where, like, what's that? I can never remember names of movies, especially westerns, but there's like the really classic one where the guy is like, he's the sheriff of the town and he's trying to retire, but then
High Noon.
Yeah.
Which they literally made into a space movie with Sean Connery called Outland. Yeah. The only thing they changed in the plot was that it was disgruntled space miners, not gunslingers.
Okay.
But the plot is the same. He's the law enforcement of the mining operation out in space, and he finds himself on his own to stop these disgruntled, violent guys from destroying everything. But it is High Noon in space.
Right.
While it doesn't have horses or a government gone wrong or anything like that, it models itself after a classic Western. Therefore, it is a space Western.
I think I haven't seen it, so I can't. But that, based on what you're saying, it seems like that would feel a little bit more like a Western, where that feeling of, one man is the final line between chaos and order. Like, it's up to this one guy or this one group of guys that have to stand up against whatever the thing is. Even if they're the bad guys, they're standing up. They're the last line. A World Made of Cardboard says, I can't wait for 2086 when two peaceful aliens journey to Earth. Loved that show and the songs. Rangers are forever.
Yeah, that's Galaxy Rangers.
Gaz says, Farscape should be on that table. We don't have Farscape.
Gaz. Gaz and everybody who's thinking like Gaz right now, okay? We can't fit everything on the table, and we don't own everything that's ever been made. We've seen a lot more than we own.
I've seen probably a lot more of Farscape than you have, because...
You did not need to tell them that. All you had to say was, you've seen a lot more than you own, all right? We can't fit everything on the table.
Well, thank you, Gaz, for the super chat, though.
I appreciate the super chat. I'm just trying... There's a lot of people out there when we do live streams who are like, how come such and such isn't on the table? It's like, well, it may be because I don't own it. Or, whatever. Like, it's not because I'm trying to diss it. Like, I love the movie Outland with Sean Connery. Do I own it yet? No. But I mentioned it. It's not on the table, though.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Okay. I like Farscape. I don't know that it feels very Western-y to me, but, I mean, if you get that vibe, that's fine. Like, to me, it's a matter of opinion. So, I guess I want to ask the question, like, what makes a Western? So, like, there are a lot of tropes, there's a lot of things that you see in a movie, but, like, a lot of us, certainly from our generation, may think of, when you hear the word Western, certain images immediately pop into your mind, and they may or may not be positive, depending on how you grew up. So, like, if your dad made you watch a lot of, like, 50s television Westerns that were very kind of...
Like Wagon Train?
Hokey and kind of dated to the 50s... by the time you were a kid in the 80s, you're like, that's so lame, And so you kind of develop a bad taste in your mouth about Westerns. And I feel like a lot of our generation kind of has that stigma against them to begin with. And so that's why this toy line was so interesting to me, that they even tried to push it, because I feel like a lot of kids from our generation were kind of like, they didn't feel like that was their type of thing, their type of story.
The timing on this, Brave Star, it was too close on the heels of pop culture rejection of the Western in favor of science, like pure space fantasy. So Star Wars had been real popular at the end of the 70s. This comes toward the end of the 80s in 87, I believe, 86, 87. And it was just trying to bring the Western stuff back in too fast.
But isn't that funny that, because sci-fi kind of killed the Western,
Mm-hmm.
or sci-fi was the thing that came in as the Western was dying. I don't know.
Well, the cop thing also came in.
Right.
So, like,
right.
in the 70s, you still had Westerns. But even though Clint Eastwood had kept the Western alive with his successful spaghetti Western films, a lot of low-budget ones of those then followed on its heels.
Which are awesome, by the way.
And in the set, well, yeah, I mean, when you have a movie called Chrysanthemums for a Bunch of Swines, that's literally the title. How can you not love that? But in the 70s, the cop drama was taking over as the substitute for the cowboy trope. In other words, the lawman in the modern times was supplanting the cowboy in the 1870s.
Right.
So. And then in the 80s, of course, it became cops, but literally on steroids. It was like, now it's not enough just to be a cop. Now you have to be a cop who's like huge, you know, and sometimes fighting aliens, and sometimes.
So you're saying Predator 2 should be on the table?
Well, you can't completely say. The moment you start putting things like Predator 2 on the table and saying that cop dramas are cowboy westerns, then everything's a western.
Well, that's my point, is there kind of has to be a line. There has to be a line.
If there's not a line, then Dirty Dancing is a western. But it's not. We know it's not.
I wish they'd named that movie something different. I feel like it would age better. Anyway, Wicked Person says, BSG is also like the Odyssey.
Yeah, these are not things that are one-to-one. So, for example, you know, Galaxy Rangers is not a one-to-one. It's not only inspired by westerns. It has other inspirations as well. Let's take Cherry 2000, all right? I didn't see Cherry 2000 on any lists, but it was one of the first ones that always comes to mind for me as a space western in some ways. Even though it's set on Earth, it's a sci-fi western in the sense that she is a gun for hire who knows the Badlands, and she's going to take this person out of civilized society. He's a city person. He's city folk. And she's going to take him out into the dangerous part of the world for hire to try and find this thing before the bad guys get it. In that sense, it's got a lot of westerny stuff going on. But it's also got a lot of Blade Runner-y type stuff going on, where it's sort of in a dystopian future. And
well, right. So that's the thing. It's like you've got things like Mad Max, and you've got things like Hell Comes to Frogtown, which is one of my personal favorites. But they're not space. They're just post-apocalyptic future. So they feel space-ish because you have moments where people are, like in Hell Comes to Frogtown, you've got cantina-type scenes where he's walking into these, and there's mutants everywhere, and so it feels otherworldly, but it is Earth in the future.
Well, let's take the original Westworld with Yul Brynner. That movie is set on Earth in the future year of 1983, which was 10 years ahead of when the movie landed, 73. It's about a futuristic theme park with androids that malfunction because of a computer virus, which apparently this was one of the first films to actually mention computer viruses as a thing. It's not set on another planet. There are no spaceships. There's no space travel. And the Western stuff is all a reference back as a theme park to our actual Western time. But there are science fiction elements within the story, like the gunfighters in the theme park are androids. And so it walks that line where it's like, this is a science fiction Western. The shorthand for that is space Western, but it doesn't literally have to have space in it.
Okay, so space is not as clear-cut as I thought it was to begin with.
No. I'm saying you can argue it back and say, no, space Western is a genre apart from sci-fi Western.
I feel like space Western is so narrow. When you really get it down to things actually meeting the criteria to be a space Western, you got like 4 or 5 things, really. Because, I mean, all the rest of these, it's thin, Riggs. I mean, Galaxy Rangers, 100%.
Cowboys
Firefly,
and Aliens?
Cowboys and Aliens.
Even though
well, is it?
it's aliens coming from another planet.
I mean, I think so. Brave Star, yes. Cowboy Bebop, yes.
All right.
Other stuff, not really.
Well, okay.
I've got a ton of super chats.
All right, go ahead.
Jonathan says, "Have you seen Cowboy Bebop and thoughts?" I'm sure you already heard our thoughts on that. Sorry, I've missed a lot of them. Gotta go back.
We're going back to catch all the super chats.
I hope I didn't miss any because it's not scrolling back up. If I missed a super chat, you guys, I have a bunch to read, but
yeah, if we missed a super chat, let us
I'm
know.
about to read a bunch, but if I don't read yours, please let me know, and I'll do my best to read it. Master Son says, Battle Beyond the Stars was a space version of the Magnificent Seven. In case you don't remember, it's the one with the ship that had breasts. What? I was like 5 years old.
Yeah, that's the one with the guy from the Waltons. It's a Roger Corman film. I've been meaning to buy it. I don't own it yet.
Benjamin says, Buckaroo Banzai is a kind of sci-fi sheriff, doctor, detective.
I'll need to revisit that one again. I've been meaning to pick that one up on disc.
Sorry, I'm trying to go slowly so it doesn't flip. Wildstar Studio says, seen Vampire Hunter D, a space cowboy vampire.
Now we're really getting into multi-layered mashups. Like,
yeah,
there comes a point where it's just like, okay, how many more things can we stuff into one package?
Jody says, in your opinion, best rendition of bionic robotic horses in any of these properties?
I like the Galaxy Rangers ones. I find it really weird when the horse is anthropomorphized and can talk.
I agree.
Yeah, these are the most elegant ones. In Galaxy Rangers, they look the best.
Robert Hartley says, hi, Melinda. Michael, what about Time Rider, The Adventure of Lyle Swan with Fred Ward? He travels back to the Western times on his motorcycle.
Wow,
that sounds like a Mystery Science Theater
I am
episode.
immediately intrigued, and I kind of want to see that.
Let's see. Everyone's talking about Outland, which then we got to. Going back in time a bit. Scroll. Wicked Person says, I believe being a Mormon, Glenn Larson intended BSG to be the Israelites traveling to the Promised Land, but it has the gunslinger Cylon episode Love Oregon Trail. Starbuck has dysentery.
Yeah, you can apply.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not about intent necessarily. Like sometimes we write things or create things where we don't realize that we're pulling or reflecting, all kinds of different things. Now, yes, the mythology of the Israelites is very much at play in Battlestar Galactica overtly. But on a more symbolic level, 2 steps back, you can also see it as wagon train to the stars, because the Viper ships are the horses with the gunslingers that can go out and protect the caravan, which are the bigger ships from bandits, which are the Cylons.
Venkman says, Aaron, the Aaronest Aaron that ever Aaroned, walked into a bar. He said, ow. Gear-laden lad, yes, we own Cowboys and Aliens. It's right here. Yeah,
we own it because this was, and I still do this. I just got some movies today in the mail. Melinda always rolls her eyes because she really likes streaming.
It's not that I like it necessarily, because I agree with everything you say about it. It's just that when I want to watch something, I don't want to spend 20 minutes looking for it. I just want to pull it up and click a button and make it happen. Make it so, number one. I just want to.
With me, if I'm going to pay for something to watch, I want to be able to say that I have something for my money.
And I agree with that.
And so this was one of those.
So earlier today, I wanted to watch Firefly because I haven't watched it in many, many years. And I was like, I kind of want to refresh my memory. I'm fuzzy on some of the details.
And her point is she couldn't find the disc.
I couldn't find it. I looked everywhere. And you know how sometimes when the one thing you're looking for, it's right in front of you and you just can't see it, even though you looked 4 or 5 times on that shelf? Well, anyway, he was on the phone and I'm like, okay, well, I come down and I'm mouthing to him. I'm like, where's Firefly? And he looks over here. He can't find it. And I'm like, I'm too impatient to wait. So I just bought it.
Somebody at work years ago recommended this to me as a truly great film.
No, he literally says, do you own Cowboys and Aliens?
It's right here.
I know. It's
literally right here.
A World Made of Cardboard says, I know it's not in space, but is the Wild Wild West a Western or sci-fi?
That's a good point. That one, yeah, it skirts that line. It's almost steampunky. I guess in a sense, you could make the argument that it's some kind of science fiction meets Western. But to Melinda's point, which she aptly said, space Western requires a different level of push, and it does not have that for sure.
JSP says, are you familiar with Rod Serling's The Loner?
I'm familiar with Rod Serling. I'm not familiar with The Loner.
I'm familiar with Being a Loner.
Oh.
Gaposaurus says, how about Trigun, one of my favorite anime space westerns?
You were just talking about Trigun.
I was, actually. Trigun is sort of like, to me, it's sort of like if Cowboy Bebop had more sense of humor to it. Like, I haven't seen a lot of it. I haven't, but I'm familiar with it. And it's one of those that
That's the dude in the really long red coat with the blonde hair and the goggles, and he's got the pistol, hence Trigun or whatever. I think that's the one.
So I think I may have read all the super chats. Oh wait, nope. Wicked Person. Intent versus result. To what degree are the Duke Boys actually a pair of modern day Robin Hoods?
Well, Robin Hood is not a Western. So.
No, but I think your point is, I think they are, because the Duke Boys do intentionally take from the sheriff, Boss Hogg, steals money or goods or things or whatever from people.
Well, Boss Hogg would be more of an analog to like King John, and then the sheriff Roscoe is
right. Well, my point is Boss Hogg is the big bad, so
right.
He's doing that stuff, and the Duke Boys do steal stuff back from him and give it to whoever. So I think they are intent. You're saying intent versus result. Are you saying that they don't intend to do these things, it just happens to play out that way? Or I think they're doing it because they see it as unjust and they're trying to right a wrong. That's the way I've always read that series. So I would say they are a pair of modern day Robin Hoods.
Yeah, but that's not really it's not
on topip. It's just a question.
Okay. Yeah. I was like sitting there like trying to process space Western, and I'm like, nope.
You can tell me if I'm wrong.
The Colbys ends up being a space Western in the last episode. I'm not wrong though, am I? I'm kind of wrong.
I feel like Monkey Jeebus says Avatar is a space Western.
Yeah, because it totally ganked the plot of Dances with Wolves.
Ooh, what a terrible Western to choose. It's like the worst one ever. It's the worst.
Yeah, it's one of those...
Can we have a whole live stream about how Dances with Wolves is the worst movie ever? The Postman is so much better.
Wow.
Than Dances with Wolves.
That's a hot take.
Or even Waterworld, better than Dances with Wolves. I will die on this hill.
So like people are asking about Buck Rogers, and I keep asking myself, like, what is it about Buck Rogers that makes it Westerny? And I was just telling Melinda before the live stream started, I feel like Battlestar Galactica has a stronger claim on being more Westerny than Buck Rogers does. Buck Rogers is a lot more like a Sword and Planet structure, like Flash Gordon, where it's a man out of time, or John Carter. It's a man out of time who finds themselves in a technological future. That's why I disagree with all the lists that put John Carter on there as a space Western. I'm like, no, that's a Sword and Planet movie story. But again, we're living in a time where everybody's opinion is a fact.
Down is up, and...
Yeah, so if your opinion is strong enough, I guess you get to define genres, and I get to define genres, and why are we even having these conversations? Let's just go have candy. There's
only one piece of pie left.
Well, you can have that. I know you like pie.
Wildstar Studio says Moon 02, Mining Town Saloon Shootouts. I've never seen it.
I've not seen that one yet, but I would say that based on that list, yes.
Keith says, Melinda, I agree. Postman was way better than Dances with Wolves. I mean, if you, so Map Film Production says, when Two Socks died, I still cried to this day at that thought. There are moments in the movie that are effective. I feel it's so yuck. Like, it's
Dances with Wolves to me ranks up there with Requiem for a Dream, Schindler's List, and what was the other one we mentioned? Films you've seen once and you don't ever have to see them again. Like, once you see them once, you're good.
First of all, I am not a Kevin Costner fan. Michael and I watched Prince of Thieves the other day, and I did everything in my power to get past him, but I could not. He is like a human log on the screen. Like, it is, and that mullet haircut that he didn't do something, either get hair, like fake hair put in or something to look more correct to the time, just pulls me out of the movie. Like, he may as well have had a rat tail. Dude, seriously, what the hell? And there were moments where I had to stop myself from going, wow, that was the take they decided to use? Like,
I agree with you.
It's jarring.
On the takes thing.
Like, Morgan Freeman, amazing in the movie. So many things. So that's one part of Dances with Wolves that's terrible. The whole concept that it's kind of like Legends of the Fall, which may be a little more forgivable because it's based on not Legends of the Fall. What's the other one with Daniel Day-Lewis running?
Last of the Mohicans.
Last of the Mohicans. It's sort of that whole problematic thing of, like, we have to have a white guy as the lead guy in this Indian tribe. It's
what does
just
that
like,
have to? I guess okay. So if we apply that to Avatar, which was the original analog in the comment,
yeah.
Right? Okay.
It's like a white guy, human guy.
Well, it's a human guy versus alien
right.
culture.
So we have to have someone who is just like us for us to care about these tribal people. And that's what makes it gross to me. It's like, can't we just care because they're like sentient beings?
You know where I checked out of Avatar.
Well, I also hated the CGI component of it.
It wasn't just that, though. It was the fact that they established very early on in Avatar that with all justification, the tribal, the Na'vi or whatever they were called, the
Naboo?
The Na'vi. They did not...
The Naboo?
That you're amusing. You're making your own fun. I get it, but I'm trying to finish this thought.
Sorry, go ahead.
All right. So the Na'vi rightfully didn't trust the humans, and had killed a number of them because the human scientists were a threat, right?
Yeah, because they were.
And then the guy in the skin suit, the virtual skin suit or whatever, the avatar, tells them as they're about to murder him at minute 40. He's like, well, no, I'm not a scientist. I'm a soldier. Which you would think, soldier, that's an even more direct threat. And immediately, the wise woman is like, show him everything about our culture. Teach him all of our ways.
Give him the keys to the kingdom and let him have our sacred daughter.
And I almost threw the remote at the screen.
He did.
I was like, there is no intellectual honesty in this plot at all. This is just the plot moving forward because plot must move forward.
Yeah, well,
I'm just saying,
it's a little ham-fisted.
I've turned Avatar off at minute 43, and I've never watched it again. Never.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Wicked Person says they put the name Robin Hood in the Duke's theme song and show them shooting arrows to brand it, but that's not the real feel of the show. Like Star Trek wasn't very wagon train to the stars, really.
Exactly.
OK Corral episode, of course.
Yes, exactly, Wicked. That's exactly where my headspace is on that. Yeah.
Jonathan Rose says, what about Last Starfighter? Aliens recruit a virtual gunslinger.
In a sense, In many ways, admittedly, director Nick Castle says in the commentary of Last Starfighter that he was very much drawing from the Joseph Campbell hero's journey that was used by Lucas for Star Wars, where there is a chosen one who is going to save.
I know how much you love that trope.
Do I?
No.
There's a chosen one that's going to save the universe, and Alex Rogan happens to be the chosen one because he passes the trial that is the game, right? So to me, there's more Hero with 1,000 Faces mythology in that than space western. Although the part with Centauri getting paid by I'm losing the name of the Rylos, getting paid by planet Rylos to bring them pilots is definitely in that vein of I'm recruiting mercenaries for your cause. Absolutely. But in a weird way, that they are unwitting mercenaries. They are all really more like champions. But Centauri has gamed the system to profit off of finding the champions. So it would almost be like if you're watching Clash of the Titans and Burgess Meredith figures out that Harry Hamlin is Perseus, and then he runs off to Athens or whatever and gets paid. He's like, it's Perseus over there. Give me my money. And then they give him money and he's like, hooray! And then he runs off, and buys himself a house somewhere.
Kyle says, come on, Field of Dreams is my favorite movie of all time. Costner is capable of good work. I agree. He's great in baseball movies. He does them better than anybody else. Because his look and personality and age, is perfect because he's in 3. He's in Field of Dreams.
For the Love of the Game, Bull Durham. I want to say there's another one.
It feels like there's even another one. So he's great in certain types of movies. He needs to stay in his lane. I didn't hate him in Waterworld, actually. I know that movie is considered this horrible failure, but it's really not. It's just because it was so expensive.
All right. Tell us if you'd be interested. I threw this at Melinda the other day, and
it hurts.
She was lukewarm to it, but I thought we should do a Kevin Costner live stream.
I feel like we can.
But that means we have to watch a bunch of his films again. And I don't know if you can make it.
Look, I watched one of his films one time. I can't even remember what it's called. I'll look it up. I was so mad. It was one of those Sunday afternoon chick flick moments where I was kind of had a cold and I was on the couch with my cat and my blanket and a cup of hot tea, and I was flipping channels and I found some dumb Kevin Costner movie that seemed like it was a romantic, drama type movie, and I'm watching it and I'm thinking it's going to end like all those movies end, very formulaic with a happy ending, and it totally didn't. But it also wasn't very good. And I was I went through all of that and I don't even get a happy ending or a payoff in any way. I was so pissed. And so I was I'm done with Kevin Costner. I'm just done with him. And that's how but you know what?
Look,
let's do it.
I promise we won't have to watch Dances with Wolves again.
Oh, I'm not watching that again. I've seen that.
Yeah, I don't want to own it.
I don't need to, yeah. Phaserface says, I'm sure you've already bounced Silverhawks as definitely a space western.
Well, that's funny. We did bring it up as, in many ways, a space western, particularly the saloons, the bad guys with wanted posters, and bluegrass. In other ways, it's kind of a throwback to the Sam Spade detective stuff, because it's got Stargazer with his sort of 1930s office, and he's got a team of space detectives or cops. So it's kind of a mashup in that sense. So yeah, it has one foot in the space western for sure.
Sorry, I'm scrolling for super chats.
No problem. She's scrolling for super chats.
Sounds wrong in some way.
Yeah, so... Oh, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Sorry, let me give you this. Let's see. The Tree Shaker says, hello, RetroBlasting, big fans of the channel. I really dig Solo as a space western. Congrats on your wedding. Proposing tonight myself. Keep safe, and thanks for the content.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with the proposal. I hope it all works out.
Yeah, good luck.
What do you think of Solo, Michael, as a space western? The movie Solo.
Yeah, I've seen Solo. I do think it has some Western tropes, but then again, Han Solo himself as a character has always been wrapped in Western
as
stuff.
has Boba Fett.
As has Boba Fett. You'll notice, and that's kind of where I was going with it's good timing that you brought up Solo. I was like, the elephant in the room here is Mandalorian, which is why I have my Matthew LaCroix action figure here on the table.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. What's so funny?
Beta Ray Bob says, I think a Kevin Costner live stream would be a bad idea. Wildstar says that's a hard pass. I don't know if that's to the idea of that or just whatever.
Wow, so there's a lot of hate for Kevin Costner in the.
I mean, there's a few folks who were like, "No, Melinda, you are wrong," and that's fine. I can take it.
Okay.
The Untouchables. What did you think of him in The Untouchables?
I do think he's the weakest actor in The Untouchables for sure, but much like Prince of Thieves, he's surrounded by such great performances that you. What is it?
Michael says Melinda should have a T-shirt. I'm done with Kevin Costner. That would be funny.
I think Untouchables suffers the same problem as Prince of Thieves, is that the headlining character is played by Kevin Costner, and he's the weakest performer. But Untouchables, like Prince of Thieves, is saved by the ensemble cast. So
I think for me, Prince of Thieves has two very difficult things for me to get past. One is Kevin Costner. The other is, although I love Alan Rickman, he's very rapey in that movie, and it is very hard to watch, especially because it is sold as comedic. And it's very graphic at the same time it's being comedic.
Right,
it's really weird and very, from a modern perspective, tone deaf, although at that time that was pretty standard. So I know you have to watch movies in the time in which they were created. But it's still, I feel like I remember seeing it in the theater and cringing at the time at some of the stuff at the end where he is trying to force himself on Marion, and it is hard to watch, you guys.
Now, everybody's rejected the idea of a Kevin Costner live stream.
Well, I don't know if everybody has.
Fair. So, enough people verbally have rejected the idea.
I wish we could have a poll in the comments.
I would like
that
to
would be
do.
great.
I would like to do at some point a Robin Hood live stream.
I think
where we
that
talk
would be
about
better.
all
I think that would be
the
great.
Different iterations of Robin Hood.
Yes.
I would like to do a Robin Hood live stream.
Yell it out in the comments what you think. Wicked Person says, covers always show a cowboy hat on a battle wizard Harry Dresden's head for the Dresden Files books to sell him as a cowboy, though he doesn't have a hat in the book and says so to tease the artist. You know, I wish Aaron were here to comment on this because he has both read the books and watched the TV show and hates the TV show because they get so much wrong from the books about Dresden Files. So,
I don't know enough about Dresden Files.
I've only seen the show. I haven't read the books. And Aaron's like, infidel! And so, I feel like I have to table that until a later date when Aaron is here because he can really speak to that, and I can't do it justice. But it's an interesting point, Wicked, so thanks for sharing that. Peter Vinkman says, I'd much rather have a Kevin Bacon live stream. That's a really good idea because of 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon. That's funny.
Well, Tremors just came out on 4K.
Well, there's your justification, my friend. Go forth and purchase. I like Tremors. Is it a Western?
No, it's just set out west.
It's kind of set in the West, so does that alone make it Western?
No.
I'm just raising... Map Film Production says, Melinda, how about a martial arts movie live stream? Bruce Lee had his 80th birthday yesterday. Feels like it would be the right time now. That's a good idea. I do love a good martial arts movie. Let's see. Lots of people not liking the Kevin Costner idea. Yeah. Wildstar Studio says, Mandalorian does have Western elements, but it's got far more samurai movie tropes, especially the lone wolf and cub. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I feel like they are deliberately trying to have those tropes, all of those tropes, with the Western stuff and the samurai movie stuff. And I think they're pulling that from the quote by Lucas on the Empire DVD set, right? Mm-hmm. Where he talks about how Boba Fett's character is inspired by the Man with No Name. Mm-hmm. And so I think they are sort of taking that behind the scenes concept and running with it and literally setting it in a, I know that's not Boba Fett, but he is a Mandalorian and whatever. So I think that's why they're pushing that Western thing. And I think it's really interesting. And I really kind of want to make this point and see what you think about it, Michael. You always talk about with Timothy Dalton as James Bond.
Right.
So when Dalton did his version of Bond at the time, a lot of people really didn't respond to his characterization of Bond, which theoretically is closer to the depiction in the books, but yes. The movies at that time had been, up until that point and after that point, much more over-the-top, almost slapstick version of being a spy. Like, right. Really wacky stuff.
Yeah.
And he played it very close to the vest, like more realistic, right? Kind of hardcore, grittier James Bond. Well, fast forward to Daniel Craig, and Craig does the same thing in his own way, but I mean, it's a grittier, less over the top, none of that, mugging to the camera type of stuff that happened with Roger Moore and some of the other Bonds, and everyone loved it because it, like, the times had finally caught up to wanting something like that. And
yeah.
So I kind of feel like the same thing is true to your point earlier about, like, Brave Star was too close.
Mm-hmm. It was too close
to the death of the Western previously. Mm-hmm. And now The Mandalorian, this many years later, if the Western died in the 70s, we're talking however many years, 40-something years later, like, we're finally at that point where we can say, okay, like, we can accept this again. And so that's why people are responding to The Mandalorian, because it's been, like, kind of to my point, too. If Star Wars were to die out for a while, I would be ready to see more of it. But it's still just everywhere, and I'm sick of it. Westerns had been like that. Now they've been dead for a while. We haven't really seen a ton of them. And so now we're like, hey, this is kind of fresh and new, and it's a new take on an older thing, but I haven't seen that thing in a while. So is that...
Yes, Mandalorian is the definition of a space western. There's no doubt about it. And I don't have a problem with the Mandalorian show. It's kind of like what, Gandhi said. I don't have a problem with Jesus. I have a problem with his followers. And with Mandalorian, I don't have a problem with... Oh, did we get some super chats?
We did.
Okay. I don't have a problem with The Mandalorian as a show. I have a problem with a lot of the fans of Mandalorian and the way they act about the show. They love to act like this show is this really fresh new thing. And there's nothing wrong with not being fresh. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging that this is just something that's supposed to be comfortable and mythologically familiar, and that's fine. But they don't acknowledge that. They're like, no, this is like this revolutionary new thing for Star Wars. And it's like, no, it's not even a revolutionary thing for entertainment. That's okay. That's totally fine. But don't make it out to be what it isn't. And that's my problem with The Mandalorian, is I told Tim, remember when Tim sat me down and tried to get me to watch, and I watched the first
two. Which I think is ironic because he hates Westerns.
I know. That's where I'm going with this. So Tim does not like Westerns, but he loves The Mandalorian.
But he likes the space stuff.
That's my problem.
So, like, the fact that there isn't that in regular Westerns is probably why he's sort of like, eh.
That's my problem, though, is that most people who watch The Mandalorian are not going to go watch the source material. They're not going to acknowledge that, whether they want to admit it or not, this has proven that the Western is just a setting. It's not a... there's no excuse to not watch a story in a Western setting, because the story is the story.
I agree.
But they won't make that leap from here to an actual historical Western set movie.
I feel like a lot of people in our generation have that attitude about Westerns for the reason I said earlier. That we saw our dads watching, Wagon Train on...
So what you're saying is what I've pretty much picked up on, and I'm irritated by it in our generation's fan base and sort of older millennials, is that people that say they'll watch the Western like this or like that or like one of these, but they won't watch an actual Western. It's like the world of entertainment is treating you like a toddler because you're acting like one, and they're like, here comes the airplane with your vegetables. And
it's the same thing as people who will watch Game of Thrones, but they won't watch Lord of the Rings because it's boring. So they like the window dressing stuff, but they don't I don't know. Something's not connecting there.
Right. I just think it's a shame that a lot of these stories are great gateways into other stories within the actual Western genre. And I've been so enriched over the decades by watching actual Westerns, and I fell into it naturally. I just started watching them naturally. But a lot of people aren't making that leap. They're just staying in this little wheelhouse, and it drives me crazy.
Keith says, I hate Robin Hood as an ideology. Okay.
Okay. I bet you wouldn't hate him if he was fighting for you.
Robert, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. He says, RetroBlasting possible topic. Comparing best movie versus favorite movie of actors. Example, True Grit with John Wayne, in my opinion, is the best written and acted John Wayne movie versus El Dorado is my favorite John Wayne movie to watch over and over again.
I would say John Wayne's best acting, Robert, is actually in The Searchers. It's a movie he deserved the Oscar for and never got, and then they gave it to him for True Grit later.
So what do you think of Robert's idea? Comparing best movie versus favorite movie.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea for a live stream. Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Okay. Boy, people are very opinionated about some of these things that we've mentioned.
Well, that's why we...
That's why we do it. That's
Yep.
why we're here, y'all. Michael Hinkson says, good morning, Mike and Melinda from the glorious Sierra Nevadas. I'd have so much to say about this subject. Huge fan of Saber Rider.
Yeah, Saber Rider is one of those mashups. It was originally a Japanese cartoon or anime called Star Musketeer Bismarck. And it has 3 major characters in it. One of them, the American in it, is a Western cowboy-looking guy. The main character was Donatello, and he that's his name in the Japanese original. I'm looking over at the box here, and he's more of a British sort of military soldier with the cavalry saber and the horse. But it has some Westernish style ideas to it that they enhance in the American redub.
Wicked Person says, are samurai films Eastern Westerns?
No, it's reverse, actually. Kurosawa's films inspired the spaghetti Western revolution of the mid to late 60s. And it also inspired the Magnificent Seven with the Seven Samurai. So in a sense, Kurosawa's samurai films helped spur a reinvention of the American Western film.
Because, American Western films have been steadily, done even up until that time.
Oh, no, they had been.
But you're saying it adds some of the things that have stuck around in the genre, that we've been talking about this whole time.
So A Fistful of Dollars is almost a shot-for-shot remake of Yojimbo.
Mm-hmm.
Seven Samurai is the precursor to the Magnificent Seven. The Magnificent Seven is just a carbon copy as a Western of the Seven Samurai. All that to say that, Hidden Fortress, large chunks of Hidden Fortress were taken and used as a template for the original Star Wars, which is considered a space Western, even though it's a lot more than that. But the point is that Kurosawa's stuff helped reinvent the Westerns over here. And so it's this weird kind of thing where Kurosawa's stuff reinvented the Western, and then slowly the Western reinvented science fiction. And then Cowboy Bebop, right? Cowboy Bebop then takes elements from the reinvented science fiction and pulls them back into Japanese entertainment.
It reminds me of G.I. Joe, and is it Transformers, where they take, not Transformers, but that other toy line. It's getting lost in my brain, but like the size and the articulation of old G.I. Joe figures inspire the Thing, which then later inspires
Oh,
Jet.
you're talking about Microman.
Microman, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of like an Ouroboros
Right.
type of situation. Yeah, so Lord Butterick says Steven Seagal and Kevin Costner buddy movie. I'm down for that.
What?
I would watch that.
Come on.
That would be hilarious and terrible.
What if Sylvester Stallone gets Kevin Costner into an Expendables movie?
Does he get killed?
I don't know. I haven't written the movie.
I would watch it. I would watch it.
So you're saying Sylvester Stallone is your...
Yes.
Come on, eat it. Take a spoonful.
Yeah, and much in the same
There's
way,
some
Kylie
Sylvester-
Minogue would be yours.
Not necessarily.
You would watch it. You would watch it if she were in it. You might not like it. You might not like it, but you would watch it.
I don't know.
I do.
I can be.
Don't lie.
I can be pretty grumpy. I can be.
Fine. A World Made of Cardboard says, I vote for Robin Hood Men in Tights. A lot of people are screaming Men in Tights. You're going to get to hear me complain a whole lot if we have to talk about Men in Tights, but I will do it.
I don't have a problem with Men in Tights. I have a problem with many of the fans of Men in Tights. I'll tell you why. Because most of the people who've watched Men in Tights have never watched Adventures of Robin Hood with Errol Flynn. And so you're not getting 40 to 45% of the jokes in that movie.
That's true, because I have seen the Errol Flynn movie, and I really enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Whereas I don't like...
Well, you just don't like Mel Brooks. Like, you don't like his comedy.
Right.
She doesn't have a problem with
I don't have a problem with him as a person.
Right. You just don't like his writing style, his comedy style. Yeah.
But, you know, I can really like someone, like, conceptually, but then just, like, not really love what they create.
When you love somebody.
Stop it. Peter Venkman says, John Hughes live stream. Did you hear what I said?
Peter Venkman, John Hughes live stream. Could I fill the table?
There's no Molly Ringwald action figures, you guys.
Well, I'm also
Ali
missing.
Sheedy.
I'm also missing a number of his films from the collection. I don't have 16 Candles. I don't have. Oh crap! I don't even own The Breakfast Club yet.
I think 16 Candles is probably my favorite of the John Hughes milieu.
Even though he didn't direct it, my favorite John Hughes movie is...
it's the one he didn't direct.
Well, I like Uncle Buck.
Oh, I love Uncle Buck.
He produced it. But didn't John Hughes direct Home Alone? I think he did.
Did he?
Yeah, I think he did direct Home Alone.
Well, okay, I like that one the best then. Vinkman says, when Costner was promoting MOS...
Man of Steel. No, yes, Man of Steel. He was in Man of Steel as Pa Kent.
Oh. Oh, man, I just blocked that out, you guys. I blocked it out. No wonder he didn't save him. Anyway, when Costner was promoting Man of Steel, he was asked what he thought about Superman, and he said he didn't think much of superheroes, stating he only liked cowboys as a kid because that was more realistic. What an imaginative child.
Yeah, it's
yikes.
It hurts.
That's painful.
I remember him, the story going around that when he was being considered for the role of Robin Hood, he was adamant. He was just like, I don't want to wear tights. And they were all like, well, why are you worried about that? And it's because that's the mentality of I only see Robin Hood one way, and I see it as Errol Flynn, and I don't want to do that. It's like, one, you don't
First of all, Errol Flynn's Robin Hood, why would you not want to be that guy?
I know, right?
He is such a badass.
Yes.
And he's so sarcastic.
Yes.
I would think that he would completely resonate with modern audiences.
Uh-huh.
It is not like, I know he's got like the weird costuming and all of that stuff, but it's got a lot of humor infused into it, which I think would be the only barrier, honestly, to modern audiences getting it, because we're so damn cynical now. We can't appreciate some just intentional comedy, which I noticed was in the Kevin Costner Robin Hood, which has been lost in more modern iterations of Robin Hood.
Right.
But I think it really helps. Like, it's sort of like that that Zorro, some of the older Zorro movies where he's kind of like a real smartass, and you're just like, I love that guy.
Right.
Jonathan Rose says Westerns were first, but Kurosawa films happened then. Most Westerns copied him. Samurai rules.
Right, and that's because you got to remember that back in the 50s and 60s when Kurosawa was making his films, it was very difficult for the public outside of other countries to see movies from those countries, right? It was only the elite filmmakers that had access oftentimes to a lot of those films and were able to see them and screen them in big cities and things like that. Or, so the filmmakers that were privileged enough to see Kurosawa's stuff, they really weren't worried about then going off like Leone did and just copying Yojimbo into the first Man with No Name Western. Now, Kurosawa's people got wind of it, and so there was a little bit of a back and forth about that, but the public wasn't aware of it for quite a while. So the public at large, proportionally speaking, industry insiders knew, but that's the whole thing. It's chronologies aren't as important as access in terms of the Kurosawa Western connection.
Tim Hayes says, LOL, Lord of the Rings isn't boring, it's just really long. I mean, so is Game of Thrones. If you watch it back to back, it's a whole lot longer with a whole lot more extraneous crap in it. Brian Stevenson says Game of Thrones is a soap opera with action. Yeah, see, that's my point, is that you can take anything and set it in the West, and I'm pretty sure if you made it soap opera-ish enough with like enough graphic sex scenes and swearing, like what was that, Deadwood that came out a few years ago?
Outlander.
Oh, well, Outlander is a whole different
I know,
thing.
But it's a science fiction-y kind of thing.
Time travel, science fiction, and historical fiction,
right? And
blah blah blah.
It's quantum leap porn, is what it is.
Yeah, but like if you put enough of those scintillating things in there, the sex in those series is much like Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian, I would argue, in that it brings in your general audience who may or may not care for sci-fi, but they think that thing is cute, or they like a good sex scene, or they like a good swearing punch 'em up thing.
Right.
They don't really care about the genre, whether that's Western or science fiction or like high fantasy or whatever. So it's making those things more accessible, as we said in a previous episode, to general audiences, which in some ways is fine. My argument against that is only this, that the big studios who are making films then only focus on these more mainstream, middle-of-the-road pop song versions of movies. So if they're making genre films, like, accessible to everyone, which is fine, then there's no real science fiction being made. And I'm not talking about being inclusive. I'm talking about science fiction storylines, whoever's starring in them. Like, can we get an actual science? It's not like science fiction should be dead. It should be more than alive, because we're literally living the future that all of, like, Ray Bradbury wrote about, where we live in a, spy state where everyone's watching us all the time, and, our cell phones are listening in on us, and it's perfectly right for science fiction plots to be told, but maybe they need to be smaller. There aren't as many things, and I think that's where Netflix and Amazon Prime and some of these types of things might actually help keep those genres alive, because they can sort of create them off on the side. These little niche properties can evolve and grow there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what people create in those areas myself.
Michael Connor, I see you doing the all caps thing. Mandalorian is lone wolf and cub. Yes, it is when it comes to the Mandalorian and the child. But again, multiple genres can intersect in these pastiche projects. And so let's take Star Wars, for example. Star Wars, the original, was not just space western. It wasn't just Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress. It was also Heroes with a Thousand Faces and historical analogs to World War II and all kinds of things. So Mandalorian isn't just one thing, okay? Mandalorian is multiple things, and one of the things that it is a space western. Fight me.
Grumpy Pants.
Well, he's yelling in the comments and.
Bob
God.
Johnson says, "Hi guys, I'm a 40-something guy, but my father was a bit older than my fathers of my time. I watched many a Western. I think actual Westerns are a hard sell as they have an ingrained racism that does not, I think you're going to say that does not translate well to today. And some of them do, agreed. But I think some of them don't. Like, there are plenty of Westerns that don't even touch on that or even ignore it, that just the story isn't about that. Because Westerns are, to me, such a broad genre that it's almost like it's the difference between saying like metal versus death metal. Like Westerns is like out here, it's a huge, or pop, like it's so broad that it could encompass so many things. And so you have things like the Oxbow incident, which is definitely a Western, but it is not racist, or I mean it's a thought piece. It's more of a moral quandary, almost Twilight Zone episode type of thing, where it's like, oh my God, I can't believe these people did this. It just happens to be set in the West.
Hey, Earthman Brick, no Cowboy Bebop. We already talked about it. It's not that there is no Cowboy Bebop. You're late. Go back to what you were saying a second ago.
I'm just saying that, like, yes, there are a lot of movies that are of that genre that maybe the racism part of it may be the reason why, but then there are others that are not, and then there are more modern versions of Westerns that have been made.
That's the thing about the Western, though, is that, like you said, it's so broad. So, for example, High Noon has nothing to do with any of that stuff. Western doesn't necessarily mean cowboys versus Indians in a problematic way that was depicted in the 50s
which
and the 40s.
Which does exist.
It does exist, but that's not... Okay, so let's take High Noon. That is a very small, focused story about a sheriff who's trying to figure out what the right moral thing to do is for this town, even though the town has completely abandoned him. What's the right thing for his conscience to do? Which, as we've said, was then remade in the Sean Connery movie Outland in space. Let's take Jimmy Stewart's Western Broken Arrow, which is a Western about a cowboy who's like, killing Indians is wrong. And he's like, and I'm going to put myself on the line to defend this tribe. And that was in the 50s when that movie was made.
Yeah.
Right?
It's very impressive.
And then let's take The Searchers, which I believe is John Wayne's best movie, because he's kind of being John Wayne in it. John Ford's film about a white girl who's abducted, or not abducted, I guess. She's a survivor, an unintentional survivor of a Comanche attack on a homestead. And so they take her as an infant child and begin to raise her as a Comanche. Well, John Wayne is her uncle, I believe, and he and Jeffrey Hunter, the original captain of the Enterprise, start trying to track this nomadic Comanche tribe. And it takes them years and years to finally catch up with them. And along the way, Jeffrey Hunter starts to realize that his uncle, played by John Wayne, is totally prejudiced against Indian people. And he starts to have a real problem with that because he's half Indian. Mm-hmm. So it's a very nuanced movie that was made in the 50s at the height of John Wayne's popularity. Okay? So there are all different types of Westerns that you can watch. Some touch on it in nuanced ways. Some don't touch on it at all, like High Noon,
and some
for example.
of them are just really
like
cringy.
Okay, one of the best Westerns that I think you and I would agree on, which has nothing to do with the Indian thing, is Rawhide with Tyrone Power. That movie,
I do love Tyrone
Power and Susan Hayward. It is the proto Die Hard.
It is.
It is.
Actually.
It is the prototypical. It is the prototype for Die Hard. Another one I love is The Big Country with Gregory Peck.
Also
that one has
really good.
nothing to do with Native American conflicts with white settlers. It's a drama between two warring families, ranching families, and Gregory Peck is caught in the middle. Sorry, I know you've got a lot of super chats to read, but anyway.
this isn't a super chat, and I'm probably going to regret it, but Imperial Mort says, didn't Stagecoach inspire Kurosawa? I think you've already answered that, but...
No, I haven't answered that one. Stagecoach... Look, great filmmakers inspire great filmmakers. So there's a lot of stuff that gets lobbed back and forth. But if you're trying to say that American Westerns are to get credit for Kurosawa's filmmaking, I think that's kind of a reach. There's no reason to sit there and try and figure out, well, who's ultimately responsible and gets the credit for somebody else's accomplishment. It's like, that's really not important. What's important is the pathway of creativity.
A World Made of Cardboard says, Marketing 101, Baby Yoda equals Porg equals Baby Groot equals small cute character with big black eyes. Yeah.
Yeah,
equals Avatar.
Equals pop vinyls.
It's the same thing, and that's kind of why I honestly, if that show didn't have that little creature, the little baby thing, I would be a lot more interested in watching it, because I feel like that is so blatantly pandery. I just can't get past it. Sorry. Wicked Person says, Han Solo, percentage pirate, percentage cowboy.
Yeah, it is a pastiche. That's what I was just saying a second ago about the last Lone Wolf and Cub thing. You can't pin one inspiration on modern stories, especially space fantasy stories. They pull from all directions. You know, you can even sit there and talk about how just down to a costume is not solely inspired by one thing in a space movie. A costume usually draws from a few things and then creates, a combo.
Ryan Lynn says Chris Columbus did Home Alone. That's right. Did you hear what I said?
Chris Columbus did Home Alone. Right.
Robert Hartley says Jeffrey Hunter's acting performance in The Searchers is about as good as Bill Paxton's in Predator 2.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Jeffrey Hunter was... I'm not talking about his acting performance. I'm talking about what role he serves in the story. And to compound what I was telling you earlier, you were talking about John Wayne's acting, which to me, John Wayne's acting in The Searchers, not Jeffrey Hunter's, is his best performance. Let's go back to Prince of Thieves for a minute. Or no, let's even do one more. Let's do Untouchables. Kevin Costner is not great in Untouchables because generally he's a wooden actor. But Sean Connery's performance in Untouchables is undeniable, as is Robert De Niro's. And Sean Connery won an Oscar for his performance in The Untouchables. And I don't think we would take anything away from that performance because Wooden Block over here can't say a line. Just saying.
Part-time. Michael Hinkson says, I just want to say happy anniversary. This weekend marks 3 years ago I stumbled upon RetroBlasting, and I've been a huge fan ever since. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Michael. That's very kind of you.
Keith Humsley says, who is Errol Flynn? Just kidding. Errol Flynn's a real interesting cat. So when we do the Robin Hood thing, I'm going to be talking about Errol Flynn.
He's a problematic personality in the facts, but if we're talking about films...
Oh, he did a great job, right, especially in that movie. Like, I'm not going to take that away from him, but boy, howdy. Go read up on Errol Flynn. If you don't know, there's a great dollop... Hey, I'm wearing my dollop t-shirt. There's a great dollop episode on Errol Flynn that is highly informative and entertaining, and I highly recommend it. That's the first dollop I think I ever exposed you to, yep. Michael. Michael Hinkson says, Hulk Hogan was originally supposed to be Little John in Men in Tights, but he went on to do Suburban Commando instead. Which one's worse?
Oh, come on.
I've never seen Suburban Commando, so I honestly don't know.
Dave Chappelle is in Men in Tights. That immediately elevates.
Is he really?
Yes, he plays Achu.
Oh, that's right. Doesn't really make it watchable. War Machine says, my girlfriend loves the Outlander books. Look, I'm not judging anybody. I tried to watch that show, but there is just so much. Like, I get it. You guys like Rutten. I get it. You do it every chance you get. Wonderful. Good for you. I feel the same way about Game of Thrones. It's like, look, if I want to watch porn... I know how to do that. It's like I want to watch historical fiction, time travel. I love the concept of it. The the costumes alone in that show are just amazingly done.
The show was actually compelling the first few episodes until they pushed it into that direction.
That's right. And that's why it's so frustrating. It's like, I personally, not that I'm being a prude, but it's like that is so gratuitous and unnecessary, and it doesn't move the plot forward. Like, they've already done it a lot. They're married at a certain point. I get it.
Right.
Anyway. Vinkman says, going back to what Melinda said about Star Wars, I think most of us would be perfectly fine if Star Wars took a break, but there are still easily entertained muggles who want Disney to keep pumping out Star Wars forever. Yeah, I mean...
Again, I'm going to reiterate what I've said a million times. Mandalorian as a product is not a bad series, but let's not make it, the second coming, all right? Because that's what people were making it there for a while for the franchise. They're like, oh, this is going to kick Kathleen Kennedy out, and it's going to do all this cool stuff, and it is the second coming of Star Wars. And it's like, as we've seen this past week, Kathleen Kennedy ain't out. She's not going nowhere, and she's taking credit for The Mandalorian. So
that's hilarious to me.
As I said to people...
I think history will judge that differently.
History will, but in the moment is what matters for the immediate future.
Well,
and as I told Tim and Aaron back when Mandalorian was first out, and other people, they were like, "Don't you think this is exciting?" And I'm like, "It's not going to change anything." And they were like, "Sure,
are you bringing weapons? Then you're not changing anything."
Mandalorian, for all of its decent result, has not moved the needle on the fate of the franchise.
Michael Connor says the all caps was a fat finger accident. Christopher Perez says The Mandalorian is also Mr. Mom in space. Which I think is funny. Keith Holmesley says, I get the hate for Disney, but Mandalorian is a Jon Favreau masterpiece. And I do have hate for Disney, you guys. Like, this whole thing with Alan Dean Foster and them not paying him. And it's like it hit the news feed for like the one day that they did that press conference. And then it has just no response from Disney in the press. They're just hoping that everyone is distracted by Thanksgiving and Black Friday and new Mandalorian episodes and that they just forget that they did this. But I'm here to say, don't forget, they still haven't paid Alan Dean Foster for his writing, which I don't even understand how that's possible. And I really hope to God that Alan Dean Foster and the Science Fiction Writers of America and all of those guys get together and sue the hell out of Disney. And, that hope to God, like, I don't know how the courts wouldn't side with them, but I mean, that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they're banking on the fact that all of us are just going to forget and just not care. Like, you could always cancel your Disney Plus subscription. I'm just throwing that out there. I'm just saying cancel Disney Plus. And I don't mean cancel like cancel culture. I mean literally cancel your account. All right, Master Son says, Michael said, fight me. I am rubbing off on him. And if you fight him, you fight me too. Mental note, never pour a drink in front of Melinda. I am scared of her wrath. God, I hate that sound, you guys. Okay. Jeff David Lowe says, Kevin Costner, as a kid I thought I was a big fan, but I realized later I was a fan of what he was in. Did anyone mention Starship Troopers as a Western?
Oh, at first, because I'm farther away from this, I thought he was about to mention a Starship Troopers something that Kevin Costner was in. And I was like, oh, please tell me what that is. But Starship Troopers, I find that to be more of a World War II movie analog. It's like a World War II combat movie. That's what I've taken away from it. I mean, if you look at Neil Patrick Harris at the very end, he's literally wearing like a Gestapo uniform. Like he's got the trench coat with the hat and the gloves and everything. And they're all soldiers with rifles and helmets. And they've got that whole Leni Riefenstahl thing at the beginning, which is very deliberate from Paul Verhoeven. For those of you that don't know, Leni Riefenstahl was Adolf Hitler's propaganda filmmaker. She made Triumph of the Will. And at the beginning of Triumph of the Will, there's all these, Germans. It was filmed in, I think, the late 30s. And these Germans are, turn to camera and they're like, I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part. And in the beginning of Starship Troopers, it's like a fake propaganda ad for joining the army. And you see people turn and say, I'm doing my part. And then at the end, it does that. So to me, Starship Troopers is a World War II analog. It's not so much a Western.
Which is kind of how I feel about Star Wars as well.
Yeah.
Keith Holmesley says, Melinda, but you love cats, but no love for baby Grogu? Is that thing's name Grogu now? Baby Yoda, who I know is not Yoda.
I don't know.
Is that what you're talking about, Keith? No, I don't. Cats are real beings.
Right.
Whereas, there's a difference between that and like being pandered to, like marketing trash. Like if you're deliberately trying to manipulate, I just don't like that. I know all advertising is manipulation, but that is just so on the nose, it's cringy. Jonathan Rose says, I just got a 75-inch TV. Michael, you have a hair out of place. It's distracting. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, there's nothing I can do, so.
I think it looks nice.
Thanks. I think it looks.
He's not happy with his hair today.
I'm not happy with my hair today anyway, so.
So, but please give him a complex so I can hear about it the rest of the night. Wicked Person says, Michael, could you humor us and break down Han's costume and Mal Reynolds?
Yeah, so Han Solo's costume, his original costume, and even to a degree his Empire Strikes Back costume, which is the same except for the jacket. If you're starting from the feet up, you've got the sort of cavalry boots, the long riding boots, the black leather riding boots. And then he wears what are basically riding pants. He wears, saddle pants with jodhpur seams in them and everything like that. He has a low-slung gunslinger holster. It rides lower. The military, in the military, back when they had, revolvers as sidearms, the military always mounted their holster on their belt where their waist was. But gunslingers, got to a point where they were...
They're kind of like guitar players in really hardcore metal bands.
Right.
They sling them real low.
Now, some people have argued, some historians have argued that the lower slung holster was not necessarily what actual gunfighters preferred. They preferred to have the gun as close to their hand as possible, so they didn't want a long throw. And so some people said that, stuck in their belt was faster, or cross draw was even faster in some cases. It was all preference. I think the low-slung holster did actually exist, but they debate how many people actually used it. And then you, of course, have the vest and the shirt, which is like, it's sort of an homage to Western style, where they actually had vests with the ribbon ties and the white shirt underneath within a hat. But then if you take the hat off and you take the ribbon tie off, it's Han Solo, and then they just sort of spaced up the vest a little bit. Mm-hmm. If you watch the Jimmy Stewart Western, The Man from Laramie, and a number of his other Westerns that were directed by Anthony Mann, you'll notice that he's wearing a jacket that was for cooler weather while on horseback. It's not a coat, it's a jacket, but it has very tapered sleeves, it's waist fit, and it has a collar. So that's the jacket that they used as inspiration, that style of jacket, for Han Solo's jacket from The Empire Strikes Back. So it's just his colder weather riding thing instead of a vest. That Han Solo's entire top to bottom. And then Mal Reynolds is, he's more of the Man with No Name style costume, where he's got, the long duster coat, which Clint Eastwood wears, something like that in the first half of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. His cavalry pants are the high-waisted pants with the braces, which are often worn in the Western cavalry movies, like She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, and what's the one with William Holden and John Wayne? I can't think of it right now, the title, but it's those high-waisted cavalry pants. You also see them in the comedy series F Troop from the 60s. And then he wears the riding boots, but they're a little stylized. And he's got sort of the inspired Colt Army revolver-looking space gun. It's kind of got a really long Josie Wales kind of throw to it, which they talked about in this TV series. They picked that for him and built it around that idea, because they said that revolvers back in those days had maximum pointability. There was more opportunity for dramatic gesturing with those than modern style frames. And again, like Han Solo, the only thing he doesn't have is a broad brim hat, because these space movies think that, like, same with The Man with No Name. It's funny, or The Mandalorian. You know, it's funny when you watch the Clone Wars animated show, there is that bounty hunter who actually wears the broad brim hat. He's the alien with the red eyes, and he wears I don't remember his name, but it was the first time I was like, oh, wow, finally, they're acknowledging the Western connection in Star Wars. I don't know why sci-fi.
Well, I don't know how many Western movies have smugglers in them, but a lot of the modern space Westerny stuff utilize smugglers as, Star Wars, Firefly.
Right.
So I think that's an interesting thing, too, because you're, again, operating outside the law. You're having to make your living kind of scavenging and doing things because you refuse to conform. And I think that refusal to conform to a tyrannical government or whoever the powers that be. In Star Wars, it's the Empire. It's just, it sort of puts people in this, they're all outsiders. So you're rooting for them because they're underdogs and outsiders. And so that feeling is also something that we haven't specifically mentioned, but that I think is really important in having a Western feeling. Adam Wofford says, John Ford and Kurosawa pulled from each other and almost worked together on a movie, but the studio backed out of the deal. As far as I know, it was going to be a mix of East meets West movie.
Oh, they were going to do the proto Shanghai Noon. That would have been awesome.
And it flipped again. God, I hate this interface, you guys. Mark C. says, have you seen the movie, not the Tom Cruise movie, called Oblivion?
No, but I will check it out.
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. I know which one you're talking about. Brian Stevenson says, Ahsoka said his name is Grogu. Boy, that does not roll off the tongue. It almost sounds like George Lucas wrote it.
I almost wish they'd picked Winky.
I do too. Yikes. Okay, that is not good. Grogu. Groggle? Something else would be better. It just doesn't roll off the tongue.
I think it should be Gorgo, and then he should grow up to be really, really tall and then destroy London.
I think it should be Grendel, because that is the name that anytime any person that I ever meet gets knocked up, and they're like, oh, I still haven't picked a name. I'm like, my vote is for Grendel. Male or female, it works. If you have the balls to name your kid Grendel, that kid's going to be awesome. Just saying. Look, have fun with it. Because, we're in the end times, so your kid's going to be growing up in, like, Mad Max world. May as well have a badass name. Vinkman says, Michael's hair is magnificent. I agree. But how is my hair, y'all?
Oh, my God.
Let's get to the important part. I'm just kidding. I changed my part side. Did you notice? Wicked Person says, pouring sounds same, except ice and the fizz it makes... Nope. Except ice and fizz make it sound less like someone peeing into a beverage container, so that's not as bad to hear at the table. I almost disagree. It is the fizzing. I hate the fizzing sound, and I hate the pouring sound. It's kind of why ASMR doesn't work on me, because it just makes me want to hit somebody. Like, it's all kind of elicits the same rage-filled feeling in my chest. Let's see. Travels with Jason F says, love you too. You both make me laugh. Keep it up. Loving this live stream. Firefly is so good. Yes, it is. I can't wait. Honestly, I started watching it earlier, and I'm like, all I want to do today is just sit and watch Firefly now. I don't even want to do the live stream. I'm just kidding. I want to hang out with you guys. But I am looking forward, because Kirby also got sick again. And
yes, he did.
We had to take him to the vet. And so yesterday I spent the whole day back and forth to the vet, dealing with him, having to get he had to be, put under and have a procedure done. It was all a whole thing. So he's upstairs in the bathroom, and as soon as we're done here, he gets to come out. And he's super looking forward to all of this being over so he can come out of his seclusion.
That's the guy's name. Thank you, guys. Cad Bane. Cad Bane is the guy that finally wears the hat.
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I was so happy to finally see that oh yeah, people in space can wear headgear.
Okay, Master Son says, don't forget to hit that like button. Let's all do it at the same time. The next time Michael touches his hair, we hit the like button. All right.
All right, so I've got this sprig of hair in the front that always likes to loop down. It does not make me Kryptonian, far from it. And it's annoying, and so I'm constantly trying to keep it out of the way.
Oh my God, somebody said, OMG, Baby Yoda being called Go-Gurt. Go-Gurt. That's better. I like that. Wow, thanks you guys. You are hitting the like button. I'm watching the numbers go up. Boop, 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 boop. That's fun. Oh, that started with Jason Anderson said he should have been called Baby Yogurt. I do like that. It's funny. Wicked Person says Han and Chewie fighting the system like a pair of retro space Robin Hoods.
Yeah, but unlike the Robin Hood thing, well, at least as far as we know prior to the events of Star Wars, and again, I only saw the Solo movie once, so I can't remember all the details on it. I know that he did the right thing, quote unquote. I know he wasn't completely mercenary, but Han Solo and Chewie as an entity before they meet Obi-Wan and Luke, if I recall correctly, they were pretty mercenary. Like they weren't reclaiming stolen goods and redistributing them back to the peasantry. That would be kind of the difference. Melinda rolled her eyes at me the other day when I was trying to
doesn't sound like me.
When I was trying to sell her on the idea of watching Prince of Thieves. And I said, there's this great moment in Prince of Thieves where, all the townspeople have come into the forest because they've gotten beaten up and roughed up by the sheriff's men because they've been, accused of harboring or protecting Robin Hood, and they've never even met the guy before, and they come in there, and Will Scarlet points in his direction, and Kevin Costner's sitting on this log, and I was trying to tell her that there are moments that Kevin Costner sells pretty well. And, Morgan Freeman looks over at him and he's like, if it's fame you seek, Christian, I think you have it. And then this angry rabble gets really mad at him. And they're like, it goes back and forth for a bit. And then they say, but, the sheriff's taken all we've got too. And then Robin Hood looks down at them all. And it's the one great delivery from Kevin Costner in that movie. And he says, then by God, we take it back. And I told Melinda that, and you know what she said? She looked right at me and she goes, yeah, but Michael, you just really like Robin Hood as an idea. And I'm like, yeah, I think he's cool.
You don't just think he's cool. You really love Robin Hood. And so anything that's Robin Hood related or adjacent, you're like all about it. And that's fine. Like, I get it. I also think Robin Hood is awesome. I guess.
Didn't seem like it at the time.
Listen. Can I just tell you guys?
She doesn't like she has a problem watching the Errol Flynn one because of Errol Flynn. She has a problem watching
I will watch it. I would rather watch it a million times over.
She has a problem watching the Kevin Costner one because of Kevin Costner. Like,
I just think that there has never been a great casting for Robin Hood aside from that lovely fox who I had a crush on.
I am going to show her Robin of Sherwood from the 80s.
That's fine.
With the dude with the 80s rocker hair.
Look, we're going to watch all those and we'll have a whole stream about it. But I'm going to tell you this right now. When I was sitting there the other day watching Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and I was like, oh, God, this is every bit as bad as I remember it. And it's going to be really long because it's over 2 hours long. And I was like, and he kept looking over at me every 5 minutes going, you look miserable. And I was like, because he was trying to pause the movie. I'm like, don't pause it. I want to get through this. I just want to get through. I had to pee so bad. And I was like holding it because I was like, if I stop it, that just makes this last longer.
We can watch the one that I've got coming with Patrick Bergen and Uma Thurman and Jurgen Prochnow. Look.
Listen. Mark C. says, everybody I get to watch Firefly, I ask them to remember the name of the episode where they thought the show became a classic. Everyone gives the same answer, out of gas.
It's a great episode. I've always wanted to have that part that he limps around with.
It is a great episode.
Yeah.
Very memorable. I love so many parts of that show. And I'm really enjoying the rewatch. And we also considered doing a whole Joss Whedon verse live stream, which would be interesting because I really like a lot of. I know Joss Whedon's kind of jumped the shark for a lot of people, even including myself to some degree. But I do love a lot of his stuff from the 90s and the early aughts. And I still think it holds up. And I do enjoy his writing style. I know you're a little burned out on it.
I was just going to say, though, that my favorite episode of Firefly has never changed. And you used to probably know this, but you may not remember what it is now.
Probably not. No, I don't.
Shindig is my favorite Firefly
episode. Oh, that's right.
episode.
I do remember that. That's your favorite. That's a great episode.
It is.
It is. It's really good.
I love everything about that episode because it's a focused story about one guy, meaning Mal, trying to stop a total jerk from being able to get away with being a jerk.
Yeah. And I love that as a plot line as well because in life, I love that. I love it when no one will let the guy just get away with it because so many times in life, some guy is an ass and everyone just wants to like not make waves and so they just want you to forgive and forget and let it go. And it's like, no, I'm not going to let it go. I'm not going to let him get away with it because I'm the line. Mm-hmm. I'm the line.
And that's why I love Robin Hood.
I get it. I agree. Zorro, too.
You will love Robin Hood.
I do love Robin Hood. I just don't like Kevin Costner.
Or Errol
I'm
Flynn.
done with Kevin Costner. Robert Hartley says, Melinda, what are your thoughts on ice crackling in your cup? Why are you torturing me? I hate it. I don't like it. Anything to do with ice in cups, you can just know that I don't like it. Gaposaurus says, Firefly was indeed great. Thoughts on Serenity?
Hated it when I first saw it, but then, this is a great example of what I believe is intellectual honesty and objective, trying to be objective even when it hurts. A few years later, I saw it in the theater. I didn't like it. And then a few years later, I went and I revisited the movie, all right, on disc. And I realized that at the time, when I had gone into the movie, I was under the false apprehension that the movie was supposed to be the continuation of the show in another format. In other words, this was the show's second chance. And I was not ready or even understanding that Joss Whedon had gotten pissy and decided that this was going to be his...
I don't see it as being pissy.
At the time I did, and I still to a degree believe that to be the case. And he killed off the show.
I don't know that he did. I think the network killed it off, and he just knew it.
He was given a movie to do. If the movie had been really, really... look.
It's Fox,
I like the movie now, but I like it for the same reasons, and this is where my objectivity came into play. I realized that I was disliking this movie for all the reasons that I criticize Return of the Jedi. What I mean by that is everything that happens in Serenity that I didn't like were things I've said I wished would happen in Return of the Jedi. And when and this was before you and I met. So when I realized that, I was like, oh, I need to watch this again without the false apprehension of this being the show going on. And when I did that, I was suddenly like, this movie's really, really good now. And I misunderstood the film at the time. So do I wish the show had gone on in movies? Yes, ideally. But do I hate Serenity for that? No. So, if that makes sense.
I'm okay with Serenity. I never had a problem with it. I must have been one of the only fans that at the time didn't know that there was a huge controversy of everybody hating it. I did not mind the fact that, Wash died. Everyone gets so upset about that. It didn't bother me. Although I loved his character, I thought it gave stakes to the movie. A lot of people disagree, and that's fine. I'm not looking for a fight. I'm just saying at the time I watched it and I was like, wow, that was, I hadn't seen Harry Potter yet where you just kill all of the characters. So, sometimes that just gets a little like you're just doing it to be a jerk, right. J.K. Rowling. But anyway.
Oh, and just to make one point here.
We got to start opening packages.
Okay,
soon.
Michael Johnson saying, rob from the rich, give to the poor, what's not to like. And there's nothing wrong with that comment at all. Meaning as what people have grown to know Robin Hood to be. But just to make a point, Robin Hood quite often is depicted in most of his most popular incarnations as taking back what's already been stolen. And it's been distilled down into this very simplified, he robs these people and gives it to these people.
Yeah, it's not just a redistribution of wealth.
It's not just a redistribution.
Taking back what was stolen.
It's taking back what was stolen.
Correct.
It's just like with Zorro. He takes back what was wrangled illegally from people and gives it back to them, which I think
it's not the same.
It's not the same thing at all.
So you might want to start getting those because we're at 351. So
I'll get the packages.
Adam Wofford says, "Hey, have you done BattleTech Toys and the cartoon show, or haven't done it yet? Also, Highlander cartoon show did a Western style episode. Most of shows was like that. I'm not sure what that means. Highlander cartoon show? Michael, do you know what that is?
I don't know about that.
Sorry, man, I don't know what that is. And I don't know BattleTech Toys and the cartoon show. Do you know that?
I do. I know about BattleTech Toys. I'm not sure about the cartoon though.
Let's see. Keith's never seen Firefly. Well, I'm not going to be the one to go, you have to watch it. I mean, if you want to watch it, watch it. I think it's not very long. It's only one season. It's only how many episodes? 13 episodes?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's a huge investment. Wicked Person says, seemingly the 80s had thug heroes or smartass heroes. Mine needed to be smartass. Costner fails as unfunny Robin Hood. Bruce Willis was funnier than Arnold and Sly. Spike is funnier than Angel. I agree.
The thing about smartass heroes is that you need variety.
You do.
And right now in our culture, we've over-indexed on heroes that never express a genuine sentiment at all. And it gets just as old as when everybody was a vanilla hero that was, Dudley Do-Right.
I feel like
I need a mix.
I agree with that. I feel like they've been overdone now. It's sort of like when you see that guy, what's the guy's name that's in the video game that's such a smartass? He's like a lark. Nathan Drake. That whole series, he's kind of the quintessential guy that does that, where you're just like, okay, we get it. You're such a badass. Nothing affects you or phases you at all. But that kind of lowers the stakes for the audience, too, because if you don't care, then we don't care. And so that's why I think Han Solo works better in Star Wars, because the other characters aren't like him.
Right.
So, and he's not the main character. He's like one voice, but Luke he does care. So I don't know. But I get what you're saying, and I agree that, like, Bruce Willis is great in Die Hard because he's a nice contrast.
It's also like saying, I can't watch a character that I can't completely relate to. And it's like, sometimes you want to, I want a character that inspires me to aspire to other things. You can relate to having an aspirational want. We've got to get past this idea that, if the character isn't awesome while also being exactly like me right now so that I don't have to stretch myself in my mind at all, that's also problematic. Because guess what? None of us are just born awesome.
Except me. Just kidding. Keith says, Melinda, do you hate people eating and crunching ice? Yes, you guys, anything with ice, I freaking hate it. Like, I hate it. Right. There's a lot of super chats. Michael Hinkson says, Michael, do a Glenn Larson live stream. So much content to go over. That's an interesting idea. Bankman says, when I used to go to the movies, they would always have a commercial for the concession stand by having the entire screen filled with soda being poured in and clinking ice being added. Yeah, tell me about it. Why do you think I hate the movies so much? Mark C. says, I'm stunned that you have an issue with Errol Flynn. Flynn gave most women the vapors. Watching a Flynn movie at the house always closed the deal for me.
Hey, Mark, I like Errol Flynn, too, as a movie star, but it's clear you haven't read about his life, all right? So
I think you need to go and read.
You need to go read about his life, because back in the day, Hollywood as a system kept that covered up.
If you think Harvey Weinstein is bad, Errol Flynn takes that cake, and he was also super into like wrangling slaves in Australia or Tasmania, because that's where he's from. So it's a very crazy backstory.
That was a massive box.
Are you sure there was nothing else in it?
There's nothing else in it, but this was from Big Bad Toy Store from Jody. Jody, thank you. I know that you sent the other Jada set of die-cast G.I. Joes a while back. Thank you so much for this. These look really nice, and it actually has the Vamp Mark II in it, which is my favorite G.I. Joe vehicle of all time. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Gaposaurus says, Wash will forever be a leaf on the wind. Watch him soar. Yeah. G.I. Go says, Errol Flynn was a creep in real life, but his acting was second to none. Yeah, no, I agree with that. But yeah, he is, as Kieran says, a terrible human being. So I guess I'm just saying, like, your Imperial Mort says he sounds like Tom Cruise. Kind of, but worse. Like, seriously, I encourage you. It's very entertaining. Go listen to the Dollop episode on Errol Flynn. It's something.
Dear Michael and Melinda, enclosed, please... Do you need to read more Super Chats?
Nope.
Okay. Enclosed, please find a meager contribution to RetroBlasting. This is my childhood Jabba. What? Holy cow, it is a childhood Jabba. Oh, he lost his arms.
Oh.
But the ball joints are intact, which is rare. Usually when they lose their arms, it's because the ball joint broke off.
Yes, Jason, I know the actors are not the characters they portray and vice versa, but as Master Son says, Errol Flynn had 2 rape cases, had 2-way mirrors and microphones in women's restrooms in his house. He was a drug addict, and nowadays he would not have had any work except, well...
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's... And that's not even counting all that slave stuff in Tasmania. So I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying I won't watch the Robin Hood movie, and the Robin Hood movie that he's in is, to me, the best one. And his acting is superb. He is a wonderful Robin Hood. Mm-hmm. But once you know that, it's like watching a Tom Cruise movie. It's a good analogy. It's hard to
Kevin Spacey.
Yeah, or even like Star Trek: The Motion Picture with the guy Stephen Collins or Colin or whatever his name is. It's just, it's like, it's a little cringy.
To put a finer point on this, Melinda and I don't believe that films. When you find out, let's say somebody's done 10 films, all right, and then you find out stuff like this about those people, we don't believe that those films should be like taken away. We don't believe those films should be out of circulation. We don't believe people shouldn't be allowed to watch those movies. All we're simply saying is we acknowledge that after a certain point in a person's actions, and you find out about those definitively, it starts to color your ability after there's a tipping point.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, when you hear that audio tape where Amber Heard is verbally abusing Johnny Depp during a counseling session, all right?
Yeah.
Everybody, I think a lot of people out there who know what I'm talking about can agree, you're kind of mad and you don't really want to deal with watching Amber Heard in something.
Especially considering how Johnny Depp has been treated.
Right.
So it's like, that's not justice.
It's not justice.
And it makes you angry. And so while you can like or dislike the character she portrays in a film, it just, it feels wrong somehow.
But this says, I'm slowly rebuilding my collection, and collecting is fun again, even more so by having great content from you, Tony at Analog Toys, and others. Thanks for helping my childhood come alive every now and again. Sincerely, John Stansel. John, first of all, thank you so much for this, but also this Jabba the Hutt, I mean, it looks like he's fixable. So I'm going to look into seeing what it takes.
They're saying Toy Polloi can help you fix that.
Well, no. I've watched the Toy Polloi video, and it doesn't have that issue. This still has the ball joints for the arms. They haven't broken off.
Yeah.
So
maybe just sourcing.
Yes, just sourcing some arms, and he'd be good to go. So I'll look into fixing this.
Sigurd says Tom Cruise can trigger due to Scientology, but there's no actual stories of him ever mistreating anyone. Well, I guess that just depends on how much you hate Scientology, because he is definitely a proponent and poster child for Scientology. And so if you're really anti-cult and you're really anti-Scientology, he becomes much more problematic. And it just depends on where you stand about that. And
this is from Matthew Gastra.
All right, so Vinkman says, I was listening to a podcast where they were discussing the sequel trilogy, and the guest host said The Last Jedi was his favorite Mark Hamill performance because, in his own words, I like broken heroes. Facepalm.
Yeah, that is a facepalm. It gets a little old.
It's super old.
Hi, RetroBlasting. Saturday morning fan here. This is my second package. You never did the DVD collection video. So I had to guess what DVDs you didn't have. Okay. Feel free to use them for your videos. The toy was mine as a kid. Needs a little cleaning. But I didn't see it in your collection. Thank you for all the great videos and live streams.
Jody says, be careful of those armless figures. BV might recruit them and gang up on you.
He might just. The official Nintendo Player's Guide. This was the original Nintendo Power that brought. I remember me and my friends in the Boy Scouts, we would go on these, like weekend trips somewhere, and we would always bring one of these in the car, and we'd just, look at the maps and stuff and wish we were at home and not on a scout trip. Hey, look at this. Hug-a-Bunch.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, look at the nightmare fuel. Oh my God, I'm going to make Aaron watch this.
The Smurfs Halloween special.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. Look, it gets better.
Wow. I haven't seen that.
The complete Drac Pack series from Hanna-Barbera.
Oh my God, I remember that.
Uh-huh.
Man, that is like...
Oh, look. Garbage Pail Kids, the complete series.
Is this the one I was looking for?
It might be.
Oh my God, is this the one I was looking for, or was I looking for the movie?
I don't know.
I kind of think, you guys, I'm looking for the Garbage Pail Kids movie. It's like out of print. This is awesome too. This is for distributor promotional use only, not for sale, rental, duplication, or public performance. So I don't know how this one's special. I think I have a copy of this upstairs somewhere, but this might be different because it's a promo use version.
Oh, look at this. Wow, this is a Supernaturals shield from the Supernaturals toy line with the holographic insert.
So the Winchester brothers used that, and
not the new Supernatural show. It's called the Supernaturals.
Yes, Garbage Pail Kids had a cartoon series that I don't know if it ever actually aired. Maybe it did, not long. And then there is a movie, and Aaron and I want to do a Dreamland on it, and so I have to go get the movie. It's out of print, I believe.
He sent a Lego man of an Egyptian pharaoh, which it's going to be hard to see. He sent one of the Wonder Twins from Super Friends, and he sent what looks like, I think. Well, this is also from Super Friends. This is Cheat. What's his name? Inekchok. I can't remember his name.
That's Tut from Batman, Saturday Morning Fan says.
Oh, is it? Awesome. Thank you. Oh, yeah, from the Batman TV show. Yeah, Tut. He was in the Adam West show.
Apache Chief, Jason says.
Apache Chief. I knew it was something Chief. I did a whole video on it, but I lose it. Oh, the complete series, Fraggle Rock, animated.
Well, at least it's animated, so I don't have to watch those Muppets.
And then you're going to love this, babe. The animated series of Alf.
Oh, my God.
Alf, the animated series.
Man, these are
awesome.
A little bit rare. These are a little bit more...
This is more up your alley, babe. This is a Japanese anime, Defenders of Space.
That does look pretty great.
Here we go. A Blu-ray collection of the original My Little Pony movie and the new My Little Pony movie.
That's not the original My Little Pony.
The one at the bottom is. It's a 2-disc set. Read the box.
I'm just saying that's not the original art. I guess they just had that redone, and it looks terrible, but that's not... It's on Blu-ray, though, so that's impressive. I don't have that on Blu-ray.
No, you don't. Oh, look at this. From Star Wars to Jedi, the making of a saga, and the original VHS for Gremlins.
Oh my god, I haven't seen this in so long. Meaning the VHS box.
An original wax pack of unopened Donkey Kong trading cards.
Oh my god. This looks like a Garbage Pail Kid Snout Spout.
Snout Spout is from He-Man.
No, I know. I'm just saying it's... Yeah. It's so ridiculous. It looks like a Garbage Pail Kid.
Transformers Super God Master Force, the Japanese collection. This is the series that continued after the American show ended, and the Japanese started animating their own show.
Right.
I'm very interested to watch that.
Jason says, "You know it's good if the response is, I'm going to make Aaron watch this."
The movie novelization of The Karate Kid Part 2.
Keith says he has the GPK movie on DVD. I'm jealous, man. I really need it.
Oh, Keith Holmesley said that?
Mm-hmm.
And look at this. It's one of the demons from Black Star.
Dude, this is a jam-packed box here.
It's the orange one, and I have the yellow, green one, and blue one, but I don't have the orange one. Dude, thank you so much.
Jody got me the Garbage Pail Kids movie.
Oh my gosh.
I can't wait to see it. It looks so bad, you guys.
BBC's Class from the universe of Doctor Who, The Stone House.
Master Son says, now they're married and he uses the term babe, LOL. Now your training is complete.
I've always called her that, except sometimes I just don't call her that on the live stream, I guess. But that's what I've always called her.
Oh, he does call me that. Unless he's mad at me.
And then finally in here we have...
Saturday Morning Fan says, Wonder Bread He-Man card.
Yeah, that's a Wonder... Yeah, right here, the Snout Spout one. I believe I have one or two more of these somewhere. Or possibly one of those uncut sheets. No, that was... I'm sorry. That was Matt Swafford. He had some for the live auction we did a few years ago. That's what it was.
Official UK Ranger says, Michael, what would you say if Mattel or Hasbro made a 30-30 transforming figure that was spot-on accurate, both modes, loads of articulation? Would you like swappable parts or a shell-former style figure?
I would like swappable parts to keep it more durable. And I would also like it to be in scale with a vintage figure. Because too many vintage Brave Stars don't have a 30-30. That's what I would prefer. I want durability in that, and I think parts forming would probably make it more durable. Pac-Man.
Oh, wow.
An original Pac-Man read-along record.
That's cool.
With the record still in there. This is Pac-Man Run for Fun.
Oh my God, look at this.
Yeah,
Gremlins.
Original Gremlins read-along records.
Is that the one I had? I had one of these. I think it was the first one, though. The Gift of the Mogwai is the one I had. This is like story 5. So I had story 1.
A children's Alf-themed storybook. The Great Alfonso.
Although that wasn't his name.
No, his name was Gordon Chumway.
Colt says, I really like having Tim on camera. I think he adds a lot to the live streams. We agree. And
we agree. We
look forward to Tim returning to the live, as well as Aaron.
Tim has not left the live stream. It's just,
We're just trying to use an abundance of caution.
Yep.
Gaposaurus says, no, Defenders of Space is a legendarily awful Korea bootleg anime featuring Diaclone Transformers or Diaclone TF Inferno as Phoenix Bot Phoenix King. Well, I look forward to that even more then. Because, yeah, I love terrible things. Lots of people are saying it's so bad. Just gonna go to the top of the stack now. Until I get that Garbage Pail Kids movie. Thank you again, Jody. That's exciting.
So, what we have here is Dear RetroBlasting. Oh no. I have a feeling this is a joke. Meaning, I have a feeling they're setting me up. Dear RetroBlasting, I apologize for the last box that I sent you because it was such a disappointment to you. I am already primed now that I'm being punked. I have since been looking for something better and more worthy of being in your collection as a token of my appreciation for all the joy you give your fans each and every week. Preferably, I sought something purple, since that is my favorite color. Recently, I came across these things called tubs. That I instantly knew you would love. They are pop culture icons, only ducks. A few of them were purple. So of course, I had to get you some. Hope you like them. Yasmin Schaefer, aka Zantara.
I'm really excited. I've never... Also, I really thought that it was going to be Pepsi Pineapple, and I've never heard of such a thing. It sounds truly disgusting, but I was really hoping that you had given him that, and we could force him to drink it on the live stream. Please let there be ducks inside here.
Okay, so there is... What do... I'm so... Okay, so we're gonna bring this... Okay.
Here, let's do this.
Okay. I am sorry. They shipped the tubs directly to a garbage barge. They sent me some lame retro replacements instead. Alas, one of them is not purple. I know you must be crestfallen. Please forgive me for once again letting you down.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I feel like we're doing a weird song thing here. You gotta open it for people.
Are you out of your mind?
Jody says, Zantara, you have a wicked sense of humor, my friend. Love it.
Can
I see it?
Yes, you can see it.
Oh my god.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, so this is like one of those things that we've talked about, but we've never had a version of in the whole interactive play thing.
Yeah, this goes like this on the top. Let me put that back on the top.
Jason wants to know where Zantara finds all these Galaxy Rangers things.
Well, it's called Europe is what it is, I think. Yeah, this is their
which is probably how he gets Pineapple Pepsi.
Yeah, this is almost like how Brave Star had the light backpacks. This is the same thing. This is so that you can integrate these onto your action figures and do sort of like light combat, like they did with Captain Power and Brave Star. They go on the back of the figures, and then
I want that thing.
Captain Kidd. Well, Captain Kidd is over there. He just doesn't have his cape.
Is that the furry part?
The furry part.
Oh,
yeah.
well, I like the furry part.
Oh, wow.
That's
now
crazy.
I'm really scared to see what's in here.
I was kind of hoping for those ducks.
Okay. Zantara, you know, and every time I say that, I think of Count of Monte Cristo. Remember they name him Zantara?
No.
It means driftwood. Remember that?
No.
Anyways, every time
My memory is like Swiss cheese, you guys.
Well, I know that this is officially Zantara, but you know, every time I hear that name, I'm always like, Zatara? Zatara? Okay, so he's also sent. He has sent a carded Evil Queen.
Nice.
Who still has the cape and the gun and everything. And he says, look, the package is damaged enough to slide the figure out for display.
That is gold, Jerry. That is gold.
This, I don't have...
That's awesome.
I don't have
Because
words.
I was like, oh man, that's a bummer that she's packaged, but then she's not.
I don't have words.
Perfect.
Thank you.
She really overdid her under-eye concealer, you guys.
Unbelievable.
Alexander Kobo says, have we tried turning Michael off and on again?
I'm sorry. These are just very,
They
very
are extremely rare.
They're very rare.
Everyone in the comments is saying that, so they all know it. Zantara says, thank you for everything you do. Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Zatara. Thank you.
George says, great timing for those Galaxy Rangers on the live stream.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Yeah, that was weird timing because I had the Galaxy Rangers out today. Wow.
Sal says, you need a moon pie stat. All right, well, we're at 18 minutes after.
Oh, okay, so we're over time. Guys, I'm going to have to process this a little bit, but thank you guys so much for being on the live stream today. I hope you enjoyed it. For everybody who's on Patreon, we will be doing the Patreon after show within the next
15 or 20 minutes.
15 or 20 minutes. We'll be posting the link over on the RetroBlasting Patreon. For the rest of you who won't be joining us on the Patreon, that's totally fine. We hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I'm working on the next big video. It'll be the last video in November for RetroBlasting, and then we're moving right on into December, and I'm starting Bionic 6 to get the first part of that done before Christmas. So in the meantime, you guys know where to find us. If you need anything, we're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon. So you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll let Melinda keep you company until I turn the stream off.
I guess I can just sing you the Firefly intro. Take my love, take my land, take me where I cannot stand. I don't care, I'm still free. You can't take the sky from me. It's very difficult to sing that because it's so changing keys. It's a great song, though.
We don't have the topic yet.
Huh? MMA Panda is saying, what's the subject for next Saturday? We don't know, man. We came up with this one earlier today, so, you know. We will come up with something. It'll be fun. We had some ideas thrown out today, so. Bye.